Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started.
Sounds good.
Today we're taking a deep dive into Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These.
Okay.
It's a short but powerful novel
Yeah.
set in 1985 Ireland
Right.
that you've asked us to take a closer look at. And it's got this dedication to the women and children who lived in Ireland's mother and baby homes and Magdalen laundries. Definitely sets a bit of a somber tone right from the start, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Even before we meet our main character, Bill Furlong, Keegan plunges us right into the bleakness of November in 1985 Ireland.
Yeah.
She paints this picture of economic hardship, long bowl queues, businesses closing down, families struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, you really feel that sense of unease, like the whole community is holding its breath.
Right.
And yet, amidst all this, we have Furlong, a coal merchant, going about his daily routine.
Yeah.
He has a wife, 5 daughters, a steady job. On the surface, he seems to be doing all right compared to many others in the town.
But there's a sense that Furlong's stability is almost fragile, wouldn't you say? Keegan hints at. A deeper restlessness within him. A feeling that maybe he's not as content as he appears.
Right, like there's this underlying current of dissatisfaction, almost as if he's searching for something more.
Right.
And I think understanding Furlong's past is key to understanding this unease. His upbringing was quite unconventional for the time.
Absolutely. Raised by a Protestant widow after his own mother, a maid in the house, became pregnant.
Right.
And the father.
Yeah.
Well, the birth certificate simply reads unknown.
Wow.
That speaks volumes about the societal stigma surrounding illegitimacy back then.
It's almost like he's carrying this invisible weight from his past, always striving to prove his worth, to create a better life for his daughters. But that desire for stability, to protect his family from the harsh realities around them, almost makes him blind to what's going on in the wider community.
And then, of course, we have Christmas approaching. The town is gearing up for the festivities, but Keegan cleverly juxtaposes this festive cheer with the stark reality of poverty for some families.
Right.
The Sinnets, for instance.
Right.
Yeah.
You see their young son, Mick, out scavenging for firewood while his father grounds his sorrows at the pub. Such a sharp contrast to Furlong's family. Preparing their Christmas cake, writing letters to Santa.
Keegan isn't just highlighting economic disparity here.
Yeah.
She's setting the stage for the moral dilemmas that Furlong will soon face. She's forcing us to confront the question, how can we celebrate amidst suffering?
And then there's the introduction of the Good Shepherd Convent,
Right.
a place shrouded in mystery and whispered rumors. Is it a reform school for girls of low character, as some say?
Right.
Or is it something more sinister?
Yeah.
A place where unwed mothers are sent to have their babies taken away.
Keegan doesn't give us easy answers. She lets these rumors swirl, creating this atmosphere of unease and suspicion that hangs over the town. The convent becomes a symbol of the secrets that people keep, the truths they choose to ignore.
And Furlong himself has this chilling encounter at the convent.
Yeah.
He sees these young women dressed in simple shifts, scrubbing floors.
Yeah.
One asks for his help. Another mentions suicide. And the nuns. They're dismissive, cold, almost menacing. The whole place feels like a prison.
It's a pivotal moment for Furlong. He can no longer pretend that everything is all right. He's caught a glimpse of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of this seemingly pious community.
Yeah.
But at this point, he still chooses to look away, to prioritize his own family's safety and comfort.
He even tells his wife Eileen about what he saw. And she encourages him to ignore things.
Right.
To just focus on his own life, his own family.
That exchange between Furlong and Eileen reveals a fundamental difference in their worldviews. Eileen is pragmatic, focused on self-preservation. But for Furlong, a seed of doubt has been planted. He's starting to question the morality of turning a blind eye,
Right.
even if it means protecting his own.
And then, as fate would have it, on Christmas Eve morning, he has to make one last coal delivery to the convent.
Okay.
And there's this seemingly insignificant encounter with a kind neighbor
Right.
who helps him with a frozen padlock.
It's such a small gesture, yet it stands in stark contrast to the coldness he's about to encounter. It's a reminder that, even in a community complicit in silence, individual acts of kindness can still exist.
And then he stumbles upon a young woman hidden in the convent's coal shed. Sarah Redmond. She's terrified, freezing cold, and desperately asking about her baby. What a gut-wrenching discovery, especially on Christmas Eve.
This is where the story takes a sharp turn. Furlong can no longer ignore the truth. He's face to face with the consequences of community's silence, the human cost of their complicity.
He confronts the Mother Superior. But she tries to downplay the situation, claiming Sarah was playing hide and seek.
Right.
But there's a stain of breast milk on Sarah's blouse, a clear indication that she's given birth recently.
Right.
Furlong is now caught in a moral tug of war.
And Keegan does a brilliant job of portraying the inner turmoil he's experiencing. He wants to help Sarah, but he's also terrified of the repercussions. He's a good man, but he's not a saint. He's got his own family to protect.
In that moment, surrounded by the coldness and hypocrisy of the convent, he makes a decision that will change everything.
He chooses to act.
Wow.
To step outside of his comfort zone and do what he believes is right, even if it means risking everything.
He leaves the convent, taking Sarah with him.
Yeah.
And as they walk back into town, the reactions they encounter speak volumes about the community's complicity.
Right.
Some people avoid eye contact, others offer awkward greetings, and some are openly judgmental.
It's a powerful indictment of societal silence. People are so afraid of rocking the boat, of challenging the status quo, that they become complicit in the very injustices they claim to abhor.
And then there's this incredibly poignant moment where they reach the town's nativity scene, and Sarah finds comfort in the donkey.
Right.
It's like she sees herself reflected in this humble creature, a beast of burden, exploited and silenced.
That scene is so beautifully layered.
Right.
On the surface, it's a moment of tenderness, but beneath that, it's a scathing critique of the town's hypocrisy.
Right.
Here they are, celebrating the birth of Christ, a story about humility and compassion, while simultaneously turning their backs on a young woman in desperate need.
And as they walk on, with the weight of the town's judgment on their shoulders, Furlong experiences this strange mix of fear and exhilaration.
Yeah.
It's like he's finally woken up to the truth, and he's both terrified and liberated by it.
It's a powerful moment of moral awakening. He's stepping outside of the prescribed roles, the societal expectations, and embracing his responsibility to act against injustice.
And then, as if to underscore this transformation, the snow begins to fall, blanketing the town in white.
It's such a powerful symbol, wouldn't you say? The snow represents purity, a fresh start. It's like Keegan is suggesting that even amidst darkness, there's always the possibility for redemption.
Okay, so we've followed Furlong on this incredible journey.
Right.
He's made this huge decision, this act of defiance that could cost him everything.
Right.
But the story doesn't end there, does it?
No, it doesn't. Because now he has to face the consequences of his choice. He has to go home to his wife, his 5 daughters, and explain what he's done. And we know that Eileen isn't going to be happy about this.
It'll be interesting to see how she reacts, how this one act of compassion ripples through their family and the wider community. I guess we'll find out in part 2.
Yeah. We will. We left off with Bill Furlong walking Sarah back into town, facing the judgment of his community.
Right.
Now he's brought her home.
Yeah.
A young, vulnerable woman in desperate need of help. And he's walking right into a potential storm.
Right.
Because Eileen, his wife, is all about keeping things steady and respectable.
Yeah, she's practical to a fault.
Right.
And this is 1980s Ireland appearances matter.
Right.
So when Furlong walks in with Sarah barefoot and clearly distressed, you can feel the tension rise. It's Christmas Eve. They should be getting ready for a family celebration.
Right.
Not dealing with this kind of upheaval.
Exactly. And Keegan doesn't shy away from showing Eileen's initial reaction.
Right.
She's angry.
Yeah.
Scared even. Sarah's presence disrupts everything Eileen holds dear, her home, her family's reputation, their hard-earned stability.
But here's the thing. Despite her fear and frustration, Eileen doesn't turn Sarah away. She doesn't throw her out into the cold or make a scene. Instead, she offers her a cup of tea, a hot water bottle, a place to rest. It's a small act of kindness.
Yeah.
But it speaks volumes about Eileen's character.
It does. It shows that beneath that pragmatic exterior, there's a deep well of compassion. Eileen might not understand Furlong's actions, but she can't ignore the basic human need in front of her.
And there's this incredibly powerful scene where Eileen is bathing Sarah.
Yeah.
Washing away the dirt and grime from her journey. It's almost a ritualistic cleansing, a moment of connection between these two women from vastly different worlds.
It is. It's like Keegan is highlighting the shared experience of womanhood, this unspoken understanding that transcends social barriers and prejudices.
But during the bath, Eileen notices something truly disturbing. Scars on Sarah's back.
Right.
These aren't accidental marks. They're evidence of abuse. a chilling reminder of the horrors that took place within the convent walls.
This detail sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? It reveals the true depravity that Furlong was trying to shield his family from. It forces us to confront the brutality that can exist,
Yeah.
even in places that claim to be havens of virtue.
And Eileen, despite her initial apprehension, is clearly moved by this discovery. It's as if seeing those scars transforms Sarah from a threat into a victim in Eileen's eyes, someone deserving of protection and care.
It's a turning point for Eileen. She begins to grasp the gravity of Furlong's actions,
Yeah.
the courage it took for him to challenge the status quo.
And the daughters, they react with such pure, unadulterated kindness. They accept Sarah into their home without question, offering her toys, sharing their food, making space for her in their already crowded lives.
It's a beautiful reminder that children often possess an innate sense of compassion and empathy
Right.
that adults can sometimes lose sight of.
Right.
They haven't yet been fully indoctrinated into the prejudices and social pressures of the adult world.
But even with Eileen and the girls showing compassion, there's still this underlying tension. The threat of social ostracism, the potential repercussions of Furlong's actions, it hangs over the house like a dark cloud.
Of course, Furlong has crossed a line, challenged the authority of the church and the social order it represents. He's put his family's security at risk. And there's no guarantee that things will work out in their favor.
And Sarah's constant worry about her baby adds another layer of complexity. It's a constant reminder of the cruelty of the system, the heartbreak of forced separation.
It does. It highlights the lasting trauma
Yeah.
inflicted by these institutions, the ripple effects that extend far beyond the convent walls.
So Christmas Day arrives, and it's this strange mix of festive cheer and underlying anxiety.
Right.
Furlong is trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for his daughters, but he's constantly aware of the secret they're harboring.
It's a poignant contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
The joy of Christmas juxtaposed with the weight of his decision, the uncertainty of the future.
And then Mrs. Wilson arrives, Furlong's adoptive mother,
Right.
the woman who took him in when no one else would.
Right.
Her arrival is so significant, especially at this moment.
Absolutely. Mrs. Wilson embodies a different kind of morality, one based on compassion and personal responsibility. She represents the values that Furlong is now trying to live by.
And she knows exactly what Furlong has done. She's heard the rumors, and her response is simple and unwavering. You did the right thing.
That statement is so powerful. It's a validation of Furlong's actions, a confirmation that he's on the right path, even if the rest of the world disagrees.
It's like she's giving him permission to be the man he wants to be, the man he always was deep down.
It's a beautiful moment of connection. And as the day winds down, there's this fragile sense of peace that settles over the house. The snow continues to fall, blanketing everything in a layer of quiet stillness.
But even with that sense of peace, we know the story isn't over.
Right.
The consequences of Furlong's actions are still unfolding, and there's no easy resolution in sight.
Right. Keegan doesn't offer us a fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
She leaves us with the understanding that choosing to do the right thing often comes at a cost. And the full extent of that cost remains to be seen.
It's a powerful reminder that the fight for justice is ongoing, and that even small acts of defiance can have far-reaching consequences. We left off with this image of the Furlong house, covered in snow, a fragile peace settling in, after the tumultuous events of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But I kept thinking, even though the story ends there, their lives don't.
That's the brilliance of Keegan's writing. She doesn't tie everything up in a neat little bow. She leaves us with this lingering sense of unease, this understanding that Furlong's actions will have repercussions that extend far beyond this one Christmas.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What happens next for this family? Will they face social isolation? Will Furlong lose his business? Will the church retaliate?
It's left to our imaginations, and I think that's intentional. Keegan wants us to grapple with the complexities of this situation, to understand that challenging the status quo, especially when it comes to institutions as powerful as the church, comes with a price.
And that price isn't always clear-cut. It's not just about potential financial ruin or social ostracism. It's about the emotional toll, the burden of carrying that secret, the constant fear of what might happen next.
Exactly. Furlong has brought this disruption into his family's life, and there's no going back. He's made his choice, and now he has to live with the consequences, whatever they may be.
But amidst all this uncertainty, there's also this glimmer of hope, wouldn't you say? The snow falling on Christmas Day, the kindness of Mrs. Wilson, the innocent acceptance of Sarah by Furlong's daughters.
Those are all significant details. Keegan is reminding us that even in the face of darkness and injustice, there are still acts of courage, compassion, and love that can shine through.
And I think it's important to remember that this story, while fictional, is deeply rooted in a very real and painful chapter of Irish history. Those mother and baby homes in Magdalen laundries. They weren't just places of confinement, they were places of immense suffering, of systemic abuse and exploitation.
Keegan's dedication to the women and children who endured those horrors serves as a powerful reminder of the human cost, of societal silence and complicity.
Small things like these isn't just a story, it's a call to action, an invitation to examine our own roles in upholding or challenging systems of injustice.
It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about our own communities, our own values, and our own willingness to act when confronted with wrongdoing.
It's a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness, of courage, can make a difference. That speaking up, even when it's difficult or risky, can create ripples of change that extend far beyond our immediate circle.
And I think that's what makes this book so powerful and so relevant even today. It's a story about ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances, making choices that have far-reaching consequences.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it, prompting you to reflect on your own values, your own choices, and your own capacity for compassion and courage.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we invite you, our listener, to consider what resonates most deeply with you. What questions does this story raise for you? What insights have you gained?
What would you have done in Furlong's situation? Would you have had the courage to act, to speak up, even if it meant risking everything? These are the questions that Keegan leaves us to ponder. And they're questions worth asking ourselves, not just in relation to this book, but in our everyday lives.
Because the truth is, we all encounter small things like these every day, moments where we have a choice to make, to act or to remain silent, to challenge injustice or to look away.
And Keegan's story reminds us that those choices matter. They have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for those around us, for our communities, and ultimately for the kind of world we want to live in.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.